Currently, Earth.
It was January 17th in the year 1966 that a B-52 bomber collided with a KC-135 jet tanker over Spain's Mediterranean coast, dropping three 70-kiloton hydrogen bombs near the town of Palomares and one in the sea. It was not the first or last accident involving American nuclear bombs. As a means of maintaining first strike capability during the Cold War, U.S. bombers laden with nuclear weapons circled the Earth ceaselessly for decades. In a military operation of this magnitude, it was inevitable that accidents would occur. The Pentagon admits to more than 36 accidents in which bombers either crashed or caught fire on the runway, resulting in nuclear contamination from a damaged or destroyed bomb and or the loss of a nuclear weapon. One of the only broken arrows to receive widespread publicity occurred on this date in 1966 when a B-52 bomber crashed into a KC-135 jet tanker over Spain. The bomber was returning to its North Carolina base following a routine airborne alert mission along the southern route of the Strategic Air Command when it attempted to refuel with a jet tanker. The B-52 collided with the fueling boom of the tanker, ripping the bomber open and igniting the fuel. The KC-135 exploded, continuing the eternity of all four of its crew members, but four members of the seven-man B-52 crew managed to parachute to safety. None of the bombs were armed, but explosive material in two of the bombs that fell to Earth exploded upon impact, forming craters and scattering radioactive plutonium over the fields of Palomares. The fourth bomb fell into the sea at an unknown location. Palomares, a remote fishing and farming community, was soon filled with nearly 2,000 U.S. military personnel and Spanish civil guards who rushed to clean up the debris and decontaminate the area. The U.S. personnel took precautions to prevent overexposure to the radiation, but the Spanish workers who lived in a country that lacked experience with nuclear technology did not. Eventually, some 1,400 tons of radioactive soil and vegetation were shipped to the U.S. for disposal. Meanwhile, at sea, 33 U.S. Navy vessels were involved in the search for the lost hydrogen bomb. Using an IBM computer, experts tried to calculate where the bomb might have landed, but the impact area was still too large for an effective search. Finally, an eyewitness account by a Spanish fisherman led the investigators to a 1-mile area. On March 15th, a submarine spotted the bomb, and on April 7th, it was recovered. It was damaged, but intact. Studies on the effects of the nuclear accident on the people of Palomares were limited, but the U.S. eventually settled some 500 claims by residents whose health was adversely affected. Because the accident happened in a foreign country, it received far more publicity than did the dozen or so similar crashes that occurred within U.S. borders. As a security measure, U.S. authorities do not announce nuclear weapon accidents. History.com also reports that some American citizens may have unknowingly been exposed to radiation that resulted from aircraft crashes and emergency bomb jettisons. Today, 2 hydrogen bombs and a uranium core lie in yet undetermined locations in the Wassaw Sound off Georgia, in the Puget Sound off Washington, and in swamplands near Goldsboro, North Carolina. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, officially the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., and sometimes referred to as MLK Day, is a federal holiday in our nation marking the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. It's observed on the third Monday of January each year. Born in 1929, King's actual birthday is January 15th, which in 1929 fell on a Tuesday. The holiday is similar to holidays set under the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. The earliest Monday for this holiday is January 15th, and the latest is January 21st. Martin Luther King Jr. was the chief spokesperson for nonviolent activism in the Civil Rights Movement, which protested racial discrimination in federal and state law. The campaign for a federal holiday in Martin Luther King's honor began soon after his continuance of paternity in 1968. Our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, signed the holiday into law in 1983, and it was first observed 3 years later. At first, some states resisted observing the holiday as such, giving it alternative names or combining it with other holidays. It was officially observed in all 50 states for the first time in the year 2000. It was January 17th in the year 1997 that the Republic of Ireland legally grants a divorce for the first time following a 1995 referendum. The first divorce in Ireland granted to a terminally ill man who wished to marry his new partner was a harbinger of the decline of the Catholic Church's power over the Republic. The Irish Constitution of 1937 specifically forbade divorce. Though the Constitution prohibits the state from adopting an official religion, Ireland is an overwhelming Catholic country, and the original document contained many elements of Catholic doctrine. The Church played an outsized role in the Irish public life, even by the standards of other heavily Catholic countries. Italy, for example, had legalized divorce by 1970. In 1986, the Irish government put the issue up to a nationwide referendum, but 63.5% voted against amending the Constitution. A law allowing legal separation passed in 1989. Both Pope John Paul II and Mother Teresa publicly endorsed the no side, a sign of the seriousness with which the Church opposed this perceived challenge to its authority. Nonetheless, the Church conceded that it would not be a sin for Catholics to vote yes. Ultimately, the Yes campaign ran up huge numbers in urban areas, winning by the razor-thin margin of 50.3% to 49.7%. Numerous attempts were made to challenge the result, but to no avail. Although the 1995 referendum only legalized divorce in cases where couples had been separated for at least 4 years, proponents of the separation of church and state hailed it as a victory to build upon. Quote, "We're bringing Ireland into the 20th century at the dawn of the 21st, unquote, said Mags O'Brien, a pro-divorce campaigner. In similar fashion, overdue reforms would follow. 2015 saw the legalization of same-sex marriage, with 61% of the vote and 66% of voters approved an amendment to legalize abortion in 2018. In 2019, another amendment greatly relaxed the requirements for obtaining a legal divorce, doing away with the period of separation. The historic information divulged on this audio file can be verified on history.com and wikipedia.org.